Okay, folks, section 2.6, the rules for multiplication. You don't have to write all this down, but I put it up here so we can talk about it. So I'm going to draw some lines, okay? Identity property of multiplication. A number, they called it A, times 1 is equal to itself, okay? 1 is the identity element for multiplication. That means when I multiply a number by 1, it keeps its identity. It stays the same, right? What's the identity element for addition? Exactly. If I add 0 to a number, it keeps its identity. That's why it's called the identity property, right? If I multiply by 1, it stays the same. If I add 0, it stays the same. All right? Good. 1 done. Let's look at the next one. Multiplicative property of 0. Okay? If I multiply by 0, I get 0. Anything. Doesn't matter what the number is. If I multiply it by 0, that means I have 0 of them. I get 0. It doesn't matter what order I write them in. Okay? Multiplication is commutative. That means that we can do it in any order. We're still going to get the same thing. All right? Next one done. Let's look at this next one. Multiplicative. I love that word. All right? Go to a mixer. Drop them down to multiplicative. You're sounding smart. And I'm like, hey, that dude's smart. They're not saying that, are they? They're going, man, I think he said multiplicative. And that's weird. Okay, multiplicative property of -1. A number times -1 is the opposite of that number. What if A is negative? Then it turns it positive. Okay? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. -1 changes the sign of any number. If it's negative, it makes it positive. If it's positive, it makes it negative. We're rolling. That's the way we roll. It is the way we roll. Here. Okay? The property of opposites in products. Guys, if the two numbers have different signs, when we multiply them, the answer is negative. If they have the same sign, they're positive. The answer is positive. Okay? So a negative times a negative is a positive because they both have the same sign. A positive times a positive is a positive because they have the same sign. A positive times a negative is a negative. What about a negative times a positive, Jordan? It's a negative because they have different signs. They have different signs, the answer is negative. Okay? Is that what they're telling us here? Negative A times B is negative AB because they have different signs. A times negative B is also negative AB because they have different signs. But Taylor, negative A times negative B, they have the same sign, so the answer is positive. These two things cancel out. Count the negatives. It takes 2 of them to make a positive, right? If you've got 2 of them, it's a positive. If you have 3 of them, then you've got 1 positive, but you have a negative left over, right? So the answer is going to be negative. Okay? Is everybody with me? Okay, look, I've already done the next one. If 2 numbers have the same sign, their product is positive. If 2 numbers have opposite signs, their product is negative. Fine, I just did that. The product of an even number of negative numbers, okay, if I had, let's say I had 10 numbers, and 6 of them were negative. When I multiply them all together, what's the answer going to be, the product? James? It's going to be positive because I have an even number of negatives. Okay? What if there were 9 negatives out of the 10? The sign of the product is going to be what, Dylan? Negative, because I have an odd number of them. Are we all good there?
Yes,
the
sir.
key one is this first bit. If you got that, you don't really have to think about that. We can just work through it. Okay? All right, I'm getting close to the end. Let's work through these. I bet we can do these in 30 seconds. Parker, 4 times 7.
28.
Good. Grace, -4 times 7.
Negative, or positive. Negative 28.
Negative 28 because they're different, right? Let's see. Bella, 4 times -7. Negative 28. Good. Emily, -4 times -7. 28. Did I finish?
Oh, yeah.
5,